So our headquarters at Precision Planting is in Tremont. It's about 60 miles that way. And I'm from a family farm about 30 miles that way. And I came on board to Precision Planting to be lead commercial agronomist, and we were testing a lot of the products that Precision's R&D department came out with. Conceal was one of the first big products. I'll show you that a little bit later. It's how we put nitrogen and potassium, sulfur, boron on the planter. But we had a situation come up where we wanted to build the perfect research farm, and the city of Pontiac had worked with the Hilton brand hotels to put the Hampton Inn Hotel in. You guys see that as you drove by? Maybe some of you guys stayed there last night. But they were building this hotel, and I didn't know what they were building at the time, and there was a bulldozer up there, and they were moving dirt, making the foundation, and I ran over with my truck and climbed up on the bulldozer and knocked down the door, about scared the operator half to death. And I said, what are you guys building here? He said, this is going to be a brand new Hampton Inn Hotel, 80 rooms. I said, okay, thanks, that's all I need to know. And so I left and went to Tremont, and I asked for the general manager, and I said, you got a minute? I got an idea. We got this interstate right here, Interstate 55. IDOT says 30,000 cars and trucks go down this road every single day. Jeez. And now the city of Pontiac and Hilton Hotels are building a brand new hotel right here along this interstate. This soil right here, I knew the city of Pontiac owned it. And years ago, there was a farmer. When I got out of college, I should back up a little bit. When I got out of college, I worked for a bank as a farm manager at Pontiac National Bank right here in town. It was June 24th, 1996 was my first day working at that bank. But one of the first farmers ever to come in, we worked with him quite a bit. He knew there was a Kmart in Pontiac years ago. And if you guys remember how Kmart and Walmart worked, wherever there was a Kmart, Walmart came in. And this farmer knew that was going to happen. He said, I'm going to buy the farm ground, and I'm going to sell my farm ground to Walmart. That's what happened out here. He bought all this acreage up out here. Walmart comes in. He did, in fact, sell his ground to Walmart, but there was some acreage left over, and he says, I don't want it. I'm just going to resell it. The city of Pontiac comes in and says, hey, wait a minute, we'd be interested in buying that because we think there could be some development opportunities in the future. The problem is, there wasn't any development opportunities. Nothing. And so I kind of thought this ground here could be the perfect opportunity. So we went to the city of Pontiac, and I will tell you, I sold tourism like you would not believe. The city council of Pontiac said, why are you coming to us asking about this? And I said, well, listen, as we bring farmers in from all over the country and all over the world, they're going to spend money in Pontiac. They're going to go to that Hampton Inn Hotel. They're going to get a room for the night. They're going to buy gasoline. They're going to buy food. We've got caterers left and right coming in here. And I said, that's sales tax dollars for the city of Pontiac. And their eyeballs got as big as basketballs. And then, they loved the idea. And really, everything we asked for, they didn't say no. Everything was yes, we'll do it. So, the first year we started the farm, we had 200 acres is what we had here. And the demand for plots from growers, it was pretty high. And so we've actually doubled in size since inception. Now we're at 400 acres. This is our main campus, our north campus, up on the other side of Route 116. So there on that farm, we do some larger scale testing, high-speed planting, things like that. We're going to need a little more room to run. And then products that really aren't ready to come to the main campus yet for folks to see yet. We're still kind of working on it. So it works out kind of nice. But that's why we are here, and this farm is designed to challenge the status quo. Take the things that farmers are used to doing, and we do something else. Okay? We all know farmers get in a bubble, and this is my 36th year of farming, I think it is. I started in '88. You guys do the math on that, see if I'm right. But the older I get, the more set in our ways we get. Would you guys agree with that? You guys feel like you get set in your ways? I definitely am. And when it comes to farming, Dad taught me how to do things, Granddad taught him how to do it, and it's just kind of what we all do. Our whole operation is set up to do that. When the calendar flips to whatever month they're in the growing season, we just go do it again because we've done it so many times. We know how to do it. But the problem with that is, yeah, you're good at what you do, but is it the best thing to be doing on your farm to get highest yield or highest profit? And so to understand that, every grower would have to go out and put plots in. And the way growers do plots probably isn't real scientific. Academia says in order to prove something is repeatable, you have to test it for 3 years and you have to rep it out at least 3 times each year. So all the trials that a farmer is doing, they're thrown out. There's just no scientific testing to it. That's okay, because we have this farm, and when we bring things to this farm, we test it for a minimum of 3 years, at least 4 replications, sometimes 5, sometimes 6, depends what we're working on. But we kind of get the check mark of the validation of whether something works or not, and then guys can evaluate whether it might be for their farm. If we can get certain things to work on this farm and have it repeatable, I know I'm not the same dirt as you or your customers. I'm not the same climate as you or your customers. But if I can get it to work and be repeatable at this farm, chances are someone else is going to get it to work too. So we are kind of that check mark or that confirmation that maybe change, does that word scare anybody? Change? Maybe change could be inevitable, right? If you're going to, I don't want to change just for change's sake, but if you show me that I can get higher yield or higher profitability, it makes that change so much easier to accept. And that's why we have this farm. This summer we brought in thousands and thousands of growers. Some of them, I think the last day we had out here, we had 17 states represented in 3 different countries. So it's not just domestic, it's international as well. Next week, as we look at Farm Progress Show happening, this farm will be full of international travel. It's our biggest week of international travel. And it's just growers wanting to be better. We're identifying challenges we have on the farm and trying to figure out how do we fix them. Some of those fix-ems, if you will, are going to be a precision planting product or technology that can go on the planter, the sprayer, the combine, what have you. But at this farm, we're looking at virtually everybody's technology. We are a working farm here, and we're showing folks what it's going to take to be sustainable. The checking account that you guys have at home, you got to have more money coming into it than money going out, right? And that's just the way it is on the farm. We've got to keep it sustainable so it can be around for the next generation. And so that's what we're trying to do. Now, when it comes to Netafim, when it comes to Nutrigip, that is the way we took control of this farm. 1988 was my first year farming, and it was a drought year almost everywhere in the country. Anybody farm? Anybody? Yeah, you guys probably remember 88. It was terrible. Everybody had terrible crops. I grew 48 bushel corn that year, my first year farming. I was a junior in high school. I went to the bank, I got a loan. I grew that crop and raised 48 bushel corn to the acre. It was a train wreck. And I remember going to my grandfather and I said, gee, what just happened here? And he said, son, I promise it'll get better. And I said, well, I sure hope so, because this is not good. But I remember that year, we had no control over anything, especially water. And so starting that year, we thought, how do we take control? Now, we are in an area here where we can't irrigate. There's no aquifer, there's no bubble of water underneath us anywhere. We're in Livingston County, Illinois. I don't know a single person who can irrigate. Not a single one. We've got people coming to this farm now, and they'll say, Jason, thank you for inviting me to your farm. Appreciate what you showed me, but I'm never coming back again. And I'm like, well, what did I say that was wrong? He said, you didn't say anything that was wrong. You're irrigated and I'm not, and I'm jealous of you. And I say, listen, don't you get mad at me. I said, I didn't have any irrigation either, but we made it happen on the farm, and you can do the same thing, and this is how you can do it. And we take them out, and we show them this system. But this is so powerful for us. And you can call me a control freak if you'd like. I want to control more things in farming. But to me, this is the ultimate control, and I got control of water on both sides. When we're too wet, I've got tile in the ground. It'll take the water away. It's all about oxygen. And you guys have a swimming pool at home? You guys got a swimming pool. All right, good. Let's go to your house tonight and let's jump in your pool. How deep is your pool?
3 feet.
3 feet. Oh, I don't know. Even for me, I don't know. Yeah. How deep's your pool?
4.
4. Okay. We're going to go to your pool and we're going to sit down on the bottom of it. We're going to stay down there for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, how are we going to feel sitting in the bottom of your 3-foot, 4-foot pool?
Stay right there.
We'll be floating. We'll be floating a little later because we'll be dead, right? There's no oxygen there, and so that's why we're putting field tile in to get rid of excess water, so we can have oxygen in the soil. Now, the thing is, when we get rid of that water, we don't give it to our creek system or river system. We hold it for dear life because we know like in most summers, we're going to turn off hot and dry. Mother Nature's not going to allow it to rain, and I am going to recycle that water that came out of the field tile to irrigate through my Netafim drift. And that's what this whole system is back here. We farmed the farm for 2 years, 2018 and 2019, and I got tired of the prairie pothole. That prairie pothole is right back here. You can see where the interstate's at. I'm trying to grow a crop. I'm buying expensive seed, expensive fertilizers, trying to keep the weeds out of it. But the problem is when the combine rolls, there ain't no crop in it. And we said, that prairie pothole, the lowest elevation of this 80 of the farm, that's where when it rains, it holds water. So I said, well, wait a minute, there's a water source for one, or we could make it that way, and we could make those unprofitable acres make the rest of the farm profitable. Does that make any sense to anybody? Yeah. So we said if that's where the water is gonna hold for us when it rains, I brought some excavators in and I said, boys, let's just make it, kind of square it up and make it deeper. That's 2.5 acres in size, 330 by 330. And that old Hampton Inn up there, when they did soil borings when they were building the foundation for it, they said they hit shale at 17 foot. So we said, okay, we'll probably, since we're so close, we'll probably go 17 foot here. We'll probably hit shale too. So let's do the measurements on it. Do you know that 330 by 330 cut 17 and a half foot deep is enough to drain and feed an 80-acre parcel? That's what our engineers told us. And I said, that's perfect. Because most farmers around here, they're working with 80-acre average tracts. So if they look at this, the kind of the practical side of things, they look at this and say, how big does one of those need to be for my farm? Now you can put things into perspective. But we dug this out. You can tell what time of year it was. There was frost in the ground. Roads were posted. We took the topsoil off. We set it aside to use it, and we did. We used it. That was easy to do. But I will say, some of the stuff, you get 3 feet all the way down to 25. It was a little ugly. You get dirt that looks like this. Not really dirt. It's all clay. Okay, that's what's in the bottom. That's what's going to help hold that water in the bottom of that pond. That was a real challenge. That really was. And given the time of year, we couldn't haul it out of here. And so I said, just pile it in the back. We'll get rid of it. We'll deal with it later. But we called this Mount Webster for the longest time. But once we had the hole, we said, hey, now we can fill it with water. Are we just going to let it rain and fill up? No, we're not going to do that. We're going to put field tile in. I went to my tiling guys and I said, well, can you give me the return on investment for putting 30 foot, 60 foot, or 120 foot tile in? And they all laughed at me. And I said, well, what's so funny? And they said, we just get paid to put the tile in. We never see any yield data. So I said, well, maybe we ought to do some return on investment studies, looking at 30 foot pattern tile, cut it in half to 60s, cut it in half to 120s. But all the while, we've got mains running around this reservoir. The laterals feed the main and ultimately comes right up here to a lift station where when the tile's full, mercury switch activates the lift station lifts up the water. It's just like a big old sump pump that you have in your basement. And this is really big though. And it will dump the water right into this reservoir. We do this for 2 reasons. One, we can keep the tile clean, get rid of the water. So if we would get a big rain event, we can handle getting the rest of that water away. The other reason we do this is so we can fill this pond, if you will, to capacity. If a lot of guys, when they put tile in, if they outlet into a creek, outlet goes about halfway depth-wise to the creek, and if the water level gets higher than the outlet, what happens to the output of the tile? It could slow it down, okay? But this way it allows us to fill this thing clear up to the top. And our job, come June 1st, is we got to have this pond full. Because this is going to be our irrigation water since we don't have an aquifer underneath us. So this was quite the endeavor. We were able to come in then with our tile machines then. We put the laterals in. This was all 3-inch red plastic tile. We did go to 6 inches. We looked at the 120s. By the way, we knew the 120s weren't going to work. I knew they weren't. But we had to document that we couldn't move that much water because, you're asking this 120-foot tile to pull water from 60 foot. Got to go halfway. We knew it wasn't going to work, but we need to document it, and then we can come in and we can split it, and we are down to 40s right now on that. We did do that a few years ago. If I had to tile the farm again and choose one lateral width, 30s or 40s, maybe 40s on a lot of the farm. We've got some now even down to 15-foot pattern tile, and we're trying to backfeed and fill some of the tile up. I don't know how that's working for us because this oxygen thing gets to be a situation with it. But nonetheless, all these laterals fill in the pond, and we've got a gate structure out here, that gray structure you see in the grass. That's my overflow. Usually come springtime, well, every year we've been full. We've never had a year where we haven't been able to fill it. So when you get to capacity, you know, if it's going to rain again, you have two options. You can let the banks overflow, which we don't really want to do that, or you can open a gate in that structure and you can let a little water out of the pond. And where does that water go? It goes in a tile right through the yard, hooks up to the road ditch, and goes 1.5 miles down the road and dumps immediately into the Vermilion River. Okay? The Vermilion River meanders around and goes to the Illinois River. The Illinois River meanders around and goes to the Mississippi River. And the Mississippi River meanders around and dumps where?
Gulf of Mexico.
Gulf of Mexico. You guys know where the water is moving. Yeah, so our thing with this is, oh my gosh, if we open that gate, we sure hope there's just water in it and not nutrients along with that water. And so that has been a popular question with this whole system. You know, I'll never forget this. I'll tell you guys this story. It was 2020, and we got an extra 105.2 extra bushel of corn because of this system, getting water away when we're too wet, bring the water back in to irrigate and fertigate with the net from drip. And I said, I got to tell somebody about this, because if a farmer could do this on their farm, they could get maybe some of the same yield increases. This could be a really good thing. And I'm wondering, who in the world could we call here? I said, let's call the United States Department of Agriculture. Old Sonny Perdue was the Secretary of Ag at the time. I said, let's just call Sonny and let's just tell him about it and we'll see where this thing goes. So I look up the number for USDA, Washington, D.C., and I called the number. Some gal answered the phone, really nice gal. She says, how may I help you? I said, I'd like to speak to Sonny Perdue, please. She said, please hold. I got transferred 17 times. Until this day, I've never had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Sonny Perdue. Never have. Matter of fact, I asked the office numerous times, where is he at? I'll go to him. Okay, where is he talking? I'll just go to him and talk to him about it. They wouldn't even tell me. On the last transfer, they sent me to the office of the soil and quality, soil and water quality. And I said, I don't know who you are, but I'm going to tell you this story, just exactly what I told you guys. And he was like, wow. He says, I really can't believe this. He said, this is a fantastic story. You got some good things going on there. He said, but I got a couple questions for you. I'm like, okay, what do you got in mind? He says, well, you guys are trying to grow some high yield corn and soybeans at the PTI farm evidently, right? And I said, well, yeah. He said, are you putting on any fertilizer? I said, well, yeah, it's going to take food to feed this crop. I said, what are you getting at? He said, well, farmers are the reasons there's nitrates in drinking water. And instantly I'm offended because this guy is working for the farmer in the United States Department of Agriculture, right? And he's blaming farmers. And I said, sir, I knew you were going to ask this question. I said, I want you to know that we test this water every 30 days. Whenever the calendar flips to a new month, we're testing this water. And he says, are you finding anything like nitrates in that water? I said, sir, we're 5 to 8 part per million. The legal drinking limit for nitrate in drinking water is 10 part per million. One of the days we were out testing the water, I said, I wonder what our drinking water is inside the building. It's Illinois American water. It tested 12 part per million. When I tested it, I told Mr. USDA, Mr. Head of Soil and Water Quality, I said, the water I got in that pond, as far as nitrates go, it's cleaner water than what we're drinking in the office. He's like, wow, yeah, it's incredible. He says, what about phosphorus? You finding phosphorus? I said, I'm trying. I said, and what I mean by that is we put fish in the pond, and I'm feeding them. There's a feeder on the west bank over there. We were feeding the fish like 6 times a day to get them big, fat, and plump. The whole idea was they were giving me manure in the water. When I pumped the water out, I'd have some manure going in the water. It failed miserably. Sounded like a great idea, but it didn't work. And I told Mr. USDA, I said, I'm trying to get some of that in the water, and I can't even do it. He says, potassium? I said, nah, we're super low on potassium on this farm. We're not finding it in the water either. And I turned around and asked him a question. I said, you've been asking all the questions here for a little bit. Let me ask one. And I said, what if I do test this water and I do find nitrates in it? I said, well, what am I going to do with it? He said, well, what are you going to do with it? I said, I'm just going to recycle it and send it out to my corn. It's already in the water. I'll just send it out with the irrigation water. I will recycle it, not let it out to the river system. I'm going to use it to continue to feed the crop. And in that moment in time, even though we were on the telephone, I couldn't see a picture of his face, I knew his brain had just exploded. Because he said this. He said, Jason, actually he said Mr. Webster, actually. He said, Mr. Webster, he said, on behalf of the United States Department of Agriculture, how may we help you on this project? And I said, sir, it's easy. Just give farmers money to go do it. And that's when the conversation was over. He wanted it to be over, but I said, sir, I said, he told me there was no money, for farmers for this thing. I said, yes, there is. And he says, well, enlighten me. Where's this money going to come from? And I said, well, you tell me. Where's the money coming from solar panels? Where's it coming from for electric vehicles? Because I said, sir, do you think this is a green program? He says, well, sure sounds like it to me. I said, well, why is it any different than a solar panel or electric vehicle? If there's money available for people to put that in, why on earth wouldn't there be money for something like this? Because the farmer is being responsible and recycling nutrients if we're getting any in that water. And it just slays me that there hasn't been tons of programs available. So now, I've had farmers come to me with maps and say, do you think I could do the same thing that you're doing out here on this farm? And I said, well, why are you asking me? He said, well, this farm's for sale and we're thinking about maybe buying it. And I'm like, why are you wanting to buy it? And he said, well, it's not a good farm. No one wants to buy it. It's available at a lower price because the drainage is all screwed up on it. We can't irrigate with it and we're limited. But what if we could buy at a reduced price, put a system like this, and make it a really good farm? And I think we can. So we've had people do this. We've had people come here, look at it, and they've gone home and they've done it. And they've been successful with it. So I'm proud of them for doing that. But that's kind of what we're doing here. We've got drip tape, the NFM drip tape. Some of it's buried. We started off, I'll take you out there here in a little bit. We started off at Walmart of all places. Walmart had a retention pond. I'll take you back there in a minute. But that was our tester. We said if we can pull from a body of water, pump it out, and put drip tape down, surface applied, just to test it out, can we get higher yields, make more money farming? And if we can, we're building this. And that's what we did. And so we've got drip on the ground, and a lot of it we do on the ground, on the soil surface, is just for farmers to see it. Because y'all know if we bury this stuff and tell people it's there, they're like, I don't understand. If they're like me, they're visual, they got to see it, touch it, feel it. And if you've got a cut on your finger, I want you to pick that tape up and feel the burn of the fertilizer that might be in that drip line. Because it's not just about water, it's about feeding the crop, right? And we can feed the crop anytime we want. It's a luxury that most farmers don't have. Most farmers are going to feed their crop once, twice, maybe 3 times. That's it. We've got the ability to do it every day if we want to. How many times you guys eat during the day? Be honest with me.
Too many?
Too many? Yeah, I would agree with you. You're at 5 times? Yeah, my interns left last Friday, but them little suckers, they just eat all day long. It's crazy. But they were working hard. We gave them all these jobs to do, and they're working hard, and you got to keep feeding them so they can keep doing the jobs that I want them to do. And one of the reasons we don't have a large opportunity to get nutrients in that water is because I just don't blast a whole bunch of nutrients on at any given one time and have that risk of getting leaching to happen to get it back in the pond. It's a planned program. Most farmers would side dress maybe half of their nitrogen. With this program out here, I can take that 50% and maybe do it 5 times. Maybe it's 10 times, depending on the situation that we're in. So it's just a little bit every single time and continue feeding the crop. We tissue test. I'd get that scanner, guys. Yeah, we tissue test here at the farm, and I want to know where's the fuel gauge at. Because like when you guys are driving your car, your truck, you're always looking at the fuel gauge. When the fuel gauge goes down, what do? You fill it back up, right? Well, why can't we do that to a crop? I mean, doesn't that make sense? But we got to know how to measure it and know what that crop is telling us. So we are tissue testing out here. We're doing some soil sampling as well. Boron was one of the big ones for us this year. I don't know why levels crashed the way they did, but we found it. We fertigated the boron right away in the pump house. When we put fungicides on, we've got a cork going on there. Actually, there was a pint on the foliar side. And I've got tissue test levels that are just awesome when it comes to boron. I mean, we change that in a hurry.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah.
How frequently do you tissue?
Weekly during the busy times of the summer. But I need to do more. Well, we got to fix it. We got to fix it. And I know there's some groups out there trying to do that. I'm proud of them for doing it. I have a little bit of an issue with, do we have a corn leaf? Okay, okay. That's fine, that's fine. That's fine. Just run this thing for me. Just hold this. So the problem with tissue testing is this. Did anybody do tissue testing, by the way? Anybody? Oh, I got 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 20. How come the rest of you don't do it?
Takes too much time.
Takes too much time. I'm with you.
My father-in-law's cheap.
That's the best one right there. I like that. Yeah, yeah. And what's it going to cost to go get a sample for you guys that are doing it? We go out and get 30 leaves. And we take 30 leaves, we crunch them up like a softball, put them in a paper bag, and send them off to the lab. What's it cost you to get that done? $30. $30. Through our relationship with Natafim and NutriDrip, we go to Waypoint Labs. We pay $10 a sample. $10. Is it still supposed to be that way?
Supposed to be.
Yeah, it is. It is. I thought everybody was looking at me kind of weird, like, oh my gosh, you're getting it for $10. I'm like, maybe I'm getting something I'm not supposed to there. I don't know. But it's $10 a sample going to Waypoint Labs. The problem with the tissue sample is you have to rip the leaf of the plant off. That's kind of crop destructive, don't you think? You'll never see that leaf again. What if we could go to a corn leaf while it's still on the plant, test it, and then get a report saying if we're low on something. If we are low on something, well then we put it on the crop and then go back to that same leaf and test it again and see if it worked. Does that make any sense to anybody? That makes too much sense, doesn't it? We cannot do that with the current way of tissue sample because that leaf is gone. When we take the 30 leaves and crunch it up into a softball and send it off, well, they grind it up. You never see it again. And so this Leaf Tech Ag tissue sampler was brought to us a year ago, and I think they've made some improvement on it. We're testing it again this year, and so we're trying to figure out if this could be something that could replace the current way we're doing tissue sampling. So it's got an alligator mouth to it, is what I call it. We'll take a corn leaf, still attached to the plant, into this guy right here, and then close it. And you know what they say, there's an app for everything. You put your iPhone on here, okay? I don't know, does it work with a Samsung? I don't know. You're my Samsung guy.
Yes, it does.
It does. Okay, good. You hit go, and you get a tissue test. You open it back up, you take the leaf out, and you go to the next one. And so right now we're saying, well, that's kind of pretty cool. It'd be great if it did work in the field. Now we just got to figure out if it does work. So we're still taking our 30 leaves, and before we crunch them up into a softball, we run all 30 leaves through this. And then we crunch it up like a softball, send it to the lab. And I want to show you some of the data we're getting in, like I mentioned. And I'm assuming that the lab is right. Okay? That's the only thing I got to go off of here. So I'm just looking at the difference with what the lab tells me and what this hand scanner is telling me. Now, we still got more data to put into this. I mean, we're not even close to being done yet, but this is kind of where we're at right now as we stand. And this is just the percent difference from the lab to the scanner. You look at nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, magnesium, calcium, sulfur, boron. They appear to be very good. I'm pretty happy with how close they've been. But you get nutrients like zinc and manganese, iron, and copper, and it looks a little wonky. And we've told Waypoint Labs this. We've told the guys from the scanner company, and apparently they're working together to help build an algorithm to maybe improve this. But from boron on here, that looks really good. That looks promising. I'm not saying that's the way this is going to look by the time we get every data point into this. I don't know, but this is currently what we have right now, and that looks pretty attractive.
Hey, Jason.
Yeah.
Just curious, ballpark, how many representative samples do you have you run through to get that data?
I don't know. And we probably need more. Everybody needs to get together and put it into this thing. And then we'd have something separated
2 weeks
by...
ago, 45,000 scans.
Okay.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, 45,000.
John Masco was trying to work with different labs and all this, and this is just our data set here. So, I don't know. I mean, I want this thing to work, but we got to verify it in the field. Now, who are my guys that said that you were tissue testing? Who are you guys? Okay, all right. How much you spend? What do you got in the budget every year to do tissue testing? Oh, somebody's laughing. That means not very much money?
Tissue testing and budget?
Yeah.
Not the same thing.
But everybody always
You
asks
think
me,
this guy
PTI farm, what do you got for a budget? What's a budget? I have no idea. So the ag industry, you're going to hear me talking about this a lot. The ag industry does a terrible job with subscription fees. You've done it a long time this way, and it's just terrible. This is another one. You don't buy this hand scanner. You basically have a lease of $15,000 a year for the scanner. So you guys that are doing tissue tests, are you spending $15,000 a year doing tissues? That's fine. I know you're not. Everybody says, well, that's not for me because that's way too expensive. Well, yes, that's expensive, but who's going to have a scanner like this? Is it going to be a farmer? Probably not. Whose hands is it going to be in? Some type of crop consultant? And so they'll have access to it. And I'd say if you want to use one of these things, if you're intrigued with it, go find who's got one and see if you can get it on your farm and pull some samples and see what you got. Even if you pull some samples and have them run it, it's not going to cost you $15,000. Maybe he'll charge you just by the sample to go run it. I don't know. So it's intriguing to us, and we're hoping that this whole system can get better because I have a direct IV into every one of these corn plants out here. Tell me what's low and I'll go fix it. That's what we got to find out. This crop is talking to us, and it's just a matter of whether you're smart enough to listen to it and react. You guys think you're smart enough right now? I don't think we're smart enough. I don't think we know about what this crop, I mean, it's probably telling us what it needs, but we just can't listen. And so we need new ways of doing this. We've got an awesome system here to go and feed it. I just got to figure out what to put on the dinner plate.
Jason, have you guys messed around with SAP at all?
Yeah, we've got some companies coming and doing the sap for us. We haven't sent a lot in ourselves. It's working with some other folks. And I think that's probably better than probably the current tissue testing program that we have. It's testing the blood or whatever is what I call it, right? But I need a system in place like for us. Or for you guys. When you guys get sick, you guys go to the doctor, right? Some of you wait a little longer than others, but ultimately you get to the doctor, right? And the doctor's going to do an x-ray, going to do a blood test or something like that, a CAT scan, and then hopefully in a short amount of time, they tell you what's wrong with you. And then in his back pocket, he gets this paper out and he writes something on it and gives you a prescription. You run to Walmart, CVS, or wherever, fill the prescription, you take it, and boom, you're better. How do I do that to corn? I want the same system. I think I got the way to give it to it. I just got to figure out what am I going to supply it with. Does that make any sense?
Makes perfect sense.
That's where we're at with this whole thing. And every other farmer in this area, they have no idea what we're talking about because they can't do it. And this has really changed the way how we're growing corn and soybeans here at this farm. Yeah. What else haven't we talked about in here? I think that's about everything. Do you guys have questions? I know I'm preaching to the choir here.
The return on investment.
Oh, ROI. Yeah. So right now, with everything we've got into this thing, and all we're figuring for return is extra bushels that we're getting on a per acre basis and putting that into the system. What I mean by that is there's no depreciation, there's nothing like that at all. It's just straight cash. And right now we're at 9.5 year payoff. 9.5. Put some depreciation in there. I think that could come down a little bit. You put a program together where there's some funding for the environmental side. Take your solar panel money, your electric vehicle money, whatever. That comes down. Maybe we're at half with both those things in there, and that looks pretty dang attractive. Even the guys that can currently irrigate. I mean, I wonder. I don't know. I don't live that. But I mean, possession is 9/10 of the law, right? If those guys get regulated for water. Well, if you got your own prairie pothole and your own water, maybe that's your backup. I mean, those are things that we're thinking about here. But I think these prairie potholes are pretty prevalent throughout the country.
So how's the return on investment for this compared to the 60 other things that you're doing
Oh,
out here?
yeah. Well, That's a good question. I'll show you some of the top 10 things that we're doing on the farm. We rank everything by ROI. It's not really by yield, it's by ROI. And the high yield management with the irrigation is always top 3. Always. Always.
What do you trigger your irrigation cycles with?
Say that one more time, sorry.
What do you trigger your irrigation cycles with?
Oh, what do I trigger my irrigation cycles with? So I'm a farmer, and when we get into a situation where the crop goes under stress, I want to help it. And how do I help it? I run out and turn the pump on. Pretty easy to do that, right? But I don't have plentiful water. Okay, I could run out pretty easy. If it don't rain again, I am going to run out of water. I can get about 4 inches of rain on, and that's it. The whole idea is I get rain throughout the season. I can get another 4 to put on. Right now, I'm putting on about 9 inches. I haven't looked this year. I haven't counted because I don't want to. I don't want to know where I'm at because I'm afraid that may change how I want to finish. Be scared of where I'm at expense-wise, things like that. I'm not going to do that. Okay. We've got sensors that we put in the ground, and we put some in the past, water sensors, moisture sensors to tell us where the water table's at, where we're getting what roots are grabbing water, things like that, and I can't understand it. Maybe I ain't smart enough. I don't know. But we've got sensors in the ground, 36 inches, and supposedly telling me where we're at. But I need plexiglass. I need to dig a root pit, put plexiglass down there so I can see it. Wouldn't that be great? But so we need to do better on that side. So I need help from you guys for that, and I know you guys can do that. So I do need help on that. Yeah. Part of some of those sensors too, since I have this, they mean nothing. You take some of those sensors, and since I'm putting water right on top of the ground, I don't think those sensors are telling me anything. I don't think they're calibrated for that. Now I bury them 14 inches deep, then I think that's perfect. But the problem is I'm sitting 40% of our acres this way. Again, mainly so guys can see it. Because I want to see it on top of the ground, how we've got the design, the flex net, how it's all hooked up, see the drippers. When I just turn it on for, say, 24 hours and you see the little circles developing on top of the ground, that's what a farmer needs to see. He's not going to see it if it's 14 inches deep. I hope that answers your question. Others? Yeah.
So if you run nutrients and stuff through drip tape and just out of the blue, like can happen around here, you get a 3-inch rain blows in here.
I'd love to get one of those. That's good. Yeah.
What, because you got your tile to take it away, is that going to really affect, or since you're recycling it, it doesn't really make a big...
Yeah, I mean if I'm fertigating and I put a bunch on and all of a sudden I get a pop-up storm that's 3 inches, it may leach down to the tile and end up in that pond. It might.
Not like you would think.
I mean the soil is a wonderful filter. Oh my gosh, I mean that's Mr. USDA when he accused farmers of it, and I said listen, I mean it's hard to make it happen. I think it's much easier for a golf course to make it happen, or somebody in town putting a bunch of nitrogen on their yard. Oh, that's direct runoff right into the storm system, right? And that's probably an easier way to get all of it done. I think it's harder for a farmer to do it, to be honest with you. But we've seen spikes from time to time. Sulfur, we've seen that. We've seen nitrogen. I have seen it spike over 10 at times. Not very often.
Does that play into, like from the oxygen side, to where it's saturated, or because of the tile it's able to be carried away, so you're not fighting the oxygen issue? Well,
the only spot I'm probably fighting the oxygen issue is right here. And we put this system in, when we put the tile in, I said, well, what if I can shut it off and not let the water out? Could I fill that, backfeed the tile and have it be an alternative irrigation source for me? So I got one down deep and I've got a shallow one. And so the whole idea would be you'd let the soil, that tile's full of water, and the soil draws from it, pulls it up, and meets where I've got the 14-inch drip. It's kind of meeting in the middle there. But if that tile's full of water, what can breathe in it? And then you look at microbial activity and things like that. I mean, do I have a dead zone going on there? I don't know. It depends on the length of time that we have there. And I think the idea would be not to have it full the whole time. And so again, the moisture sensor is telling me where the water table is at, somewhere between that 14 inch and where the tile's at. Now I will say, we got 15-foot pattern tile and 30-foot pattern tile, so this split down in half, and we're looking for the wave in corn. Okay, because you're asking a 30-foot tile pattern, you know, filling water in it to draw it a full 30 feet between, versus 15 foot, it's only got to draw it 7.5 feet. But this year, you know, in June, I don't know what it is about the month of June. That's our hardest month. It's not July or August. It's June. I mean, just super hot, a hot month. And the crop, the last 2 years in a row, we've been suffering. I can't backfeed water into a tile in June and feed a crop of corn. The root system's not even close.
I'd like to make a comment to your question. I think it's a great question. One of the benefits of drip is multiple meals. So if you apply all your nutrients out there all at one time and up, you know, front load it, or even one side dress and put it in 2 meals, you're exposing yourself to a potential for loss when you get that 3-inch soaker. So if you break it into small meals and you're only exposing a very small amount at any point in time, and kind of, you know, what we like to do is look at the uptake chart of corn or soybeans or whatever, kind of match that or stay just ahead of that, so you're not exposing yourself to losses. The other benefit to that is, because you're multiple meals, there's an efficiency with multiple meals as well that you can benefit to the crop, maybe another 20% efficiency. So you're exposing yourself to a lot less loss, and you have that efficiency factor working for you. So the control that you have, for the control freaks like Jason, the control that you have is phenomenal, and you don't have to expose yourself to that. That's the beautiful part of it. Yeah, we don't have to explain anything that, my gosh, we're putting it in the tile. Well, if you don't put it out in the soil and you're not consuming it, you don't have to have anything to explain. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Well-timed question.
Yeah, there's also some reduced risk from not putting it all up front. So you don't have that entire investment in the case of a weather event, whenever you might potentially lose your crop. And so, you know,
Absolutely.
instead of leaving that out there on the field, you've still got that in the bank. So.
Yep. I mean, we're still feeding the crop now. We got about an inch of rain last week, and so we slowed down on water. As you know, the crop really didn't need water at that point, but it still needs the food. And so we got a little bit of water kicking on to put that food on, and then we'll shut down. So we don't have to run it as long, which is a good thing. But I'll start up probably tonight. I'll probably start up tonight again. And we're 20, I shouldn't say, I was going to say 24-hour on. We are length of daylight on. We take a day off, and then I'm back on again in all these trials. So it's put it on today, tomorrow she'll rest, and then I'll do it again. Just repeat the cycle. So everything's set up in a zone out here, and we can come in and treat each one individually and go, yeah.
How much water is applied on that 12-hour cycle? Inches. What's your application rate out here?
Yeah, so with the pump we've got out here, it depends on the size of the system, but I can get 3.5, 3,800, something like that on. Yeah, if we run her hard. Yeah.
So what's the minimum amount you need to get nutrients?
Oh, minimum. If we're just feeding and we don't need the water, you know, we'd probably go half of that. And so we'd match ET. Match ET with it. I don't know. I always tell my kids this. There's a right way of doing things, a wrong way of doing things, and then there's a Jason Webster way of doing things. That's the Jason Webster way of doing it. It is. But I figured let's match ET of what it's using. Now the ET sensor I can figure out. I do like that one on the farm. We got one of those put up, and I think I really like that. Tells me what the crop used today, and I have to put that on plus a little more. And if I do that, I should be okay. Yeah.
What's your plan for finishing out this corn? Are you stopping at black layer? Kind of. You're getting a little at brown layer, or what's your plan?
Some of this I'll probably harvest the corn and then pick up the drip tape. Yeah, some of these guys that work with me say, Jason, can we get rid of this drip tape because we kind of like to harvest the crop. And neighbors will be going harvesting and we'll still be putting water on. But listen, guys and gals, does your crop need to be dead for you to harvest it? Well, let me just rephrase the question. Should your crop be dead when you harvest it? Soybeans, yes, probably, but not corn. I want it to be green. Don't. I mean, this corn, we always say, don't let it dent, right? My corn is denting right now, and I can't stop it. I'm trying, but we're going to keep feeding this thing. And I'm telling everybody I need 3 more weeks. I need 3 more weeks of water. So where are we at on the calendar? What are we, 19th, 20th, something like that? Yeah, so that'll get me to Labor Day. That'll get me to Labor Day.
To your question a second ago about how little water, when we've got all kinds of water and we don't need much water, we'll put on as small as 5/100ths of an inch. Highly concentrate the fertilizer. Because the soil is so full, you don't have to worry about burning any roots because we're blending it with the soil water. So you can just put a very highly concentrated amount on with 5/100ths. You know, where typically we put on ET a 1/4 of an inch or 3/10 of an inch if they need the water. But if you don't need the water, you can put a highly concentrated dose of fertilizer.
So can you pull a crop out that's had damage from too much water, that's basically a waterlogged, and with nutrients,
Yep.
bring it out of that?
We've done it. That's me being a farmer wanting to help the crop, putting too much on. I got to be smart enough to know when to hit the switch, turn it off.
And we can talk about this when we get back in the room about how do I do that. You can use a soil moisture probe in reverse to decide I've got a little bit of room here, I've got enough air in the soil to be able to apply, so a person can put a little bit of fertilizer, or excuse me, a little bit of water and a lot of fertilizer if I've got enough room. If I'm so saturated, the plant's not going to take it, and you're wasting your time and money. But we can talk about that later. See that chart.
This is one of our high yield trials here at the farm. Typically we're pulling some pretty good corn off this. We do have drip every 40 inches all the way across here. We have 15-foot pattern tile on this side over here. We have 30-foot pattern tile on this side. Actually, then all the way to the interstate, 30 foot. But I want to show you the power of the water management program that we have here at the farm. I want to put it into perspective on bushels per acre. Okay, so when we started this farm, it's just like any farmer buying a farm or picking up a new farm. You got to farm it for a year or two to figure out what's wrong with it so you can fix it, right? First 2 years, we're growing 270, 280 bushel corn here. And we ran into huge pH issues, compaction issues, but water issues. And the area we just came through, and I told you how we built this thing, look at the yield increase. I mean, after 2019, we're working on the system, and 2020 growing season, it changed everything. Because we go from 270, 280 bushel corn to 368. This is my 36th year of farming. And up at that point in 2020, I'd never grown any corn, anything like that. Never. Now, what's the world record for corn yield? Anybody know? 623 bushel. Mr. David Hula in the great state of Virginia. Now, that ain't no 623 bushel. So it's kind of humbling in that regard. But I've never done this before. It's kind of a step in the right direction, I thought. But look at the difference of what we had to begin with to where we're at now. And ever since then, look at where the yields have gone. I dipped down a little bit in 21. That was your tar spot. That's why that number went down some. But then 22 got a little better, 398. And last year, 403.7. Still not a 620. I know that. What do I got to do to get 620 bushel corn here? I need another 220 bushel to the acre. Imagine that. How do I grow another 220 some bushel to the acre? Some people say, well, just plant it thicker. I asked Hula, I saw him a week ago Thursday. I said, how thick do you plant your 600 bushel corn? He said, 38 to 54,000. Here on this farm, I've got, last year I had 4 hybrids, this year I've got 2. I plant them at 36, 38, and 40. And 38 wins. Not 40,000. You'd think that with everything we're throwing at it, maybe 40,000 more seeds per acre would pay for itself. Right now it doesn't. So I see that and say, okay, what's wrong? What's wrong with it out here? How come I can't plant more to get more yield? Is it row width? Do I need to go narrower? Hula's 620 was on 30s. Is there something nutritionally? Potassium we are low on, but is there other things that are limiting us, you know, kind of causing an imbalance and locking us, you know, potential-wise for yield? I don't know. I don't know the answers to it. I'm asking the question. I mean, what do you think we should work on here? How do we grow 600 bushel corn? Or can we? I've got strip cropping going on here at this farm where we use corn as a tall crop and we plant a short corn next to it, and it is very common to get a 40 to 50 bushel yield increase. I'd really like somebody to measure the amount of sun Mr. Hula's getting in Virginia versus the amount of sun I get here in Pontiac, Illinois. That might be the first place to start. Not seeding rate. Put some red light on it. Somebody was here last week and said, Jason, when I come back here to this farm next year, I fully expect to see aluminum foil down those 30-inch rows of corn. I said, what are you talking about? I said, we're going to get more sun that way. Whatever hits the ground, you're going to bounce it right back up and you're going to recycle it. I said, I love the way you think. Yeah. Yeah. My interns thought they had a bad lay in drifting. You wait till they're laying aluminum foil. Oh my God. That, you know, those ideas make more sense than things like nitrogen. Some folks will come out here and say, well, how much nitrogen are you putting on to get 600 bushel corn? I asked Hula, how much nitrogen are you putting on? He said, none of your business. He wouldn't tell me. I put 299.9 pounds of nitrogen on these trials. 299.9. So I can honestly say we've never put 300 or more pounds on out here on the farm. And again, I don't think it takes more nitrogen to grow 400 or 500. I don't think it's going to. Guys have asked me to do it and I've said no. However, last year I gave in to the peer pressure and I did it. I said, okay, fine. You want me to put on another 100 pounds of nitrogen? Now I'm up to 400. Did it give me a yield increase? Yeah, I got 7 extra bushel on it. You think that paid? It did not, because it took 16.6 extra bushel of corn for every 100 pounds I put on. I even went up to 500 pounds. Yeah, I got a 14 bushel yield increase, but I needed 33 bushel for that to pay, and it didn't. Now listen, I got 500 pounds of nitrogen out here on this corn, and the corn didn't use it. Where's it at now?
Irrigation system. To the pond.
All right, heading to the pond. And that's why we call it the irresponsible nitrogen rate study. Because if everybody did that, now Mr. USDA that says, hey, farmers are the reason we're putting nitrates in drinking water, it would be accurate in saying that. It's not nitrogen. There's got to be something else. We're going to work on the fertility side of it, but I wonder the amount of sun, if there's a difference. I've not looked at this, but it'd be really interesting to see in different parts of the world or country if there is more sunlight.
Temperature?
Temperature would be good to look at too. Yeah. You got to give me a good June. And one of these years we're going to have a good June, and maybe we'll set the stage. I mean, I've got one corn hybrid back here that we call the Louisville Slugger. I mean, last year, well, you can kind of figure out which one it was. I mean, just big old ears. 48 long on it, but she's 14 rounds.
That's what I was going to ask, yeah. It's pretty, not very.
Yeah, she's 14 rounds. So that tells you something happened when to trigger that. When the good Lord made a corn plant, he said, at what growth stage you'll start determining yield. Corn's this tall, V5 growth stage, that's when she sets curves. Congratulations, you have a 14, 16, 18, or heaven forbid a 20 round. And you can't go back and fix it.
What caused that in June? Cloudy or?
Could have been clouds or hot, dry. I mean, this was our second June, not quite as bad as last year, but close. I mean, that soil temperature just smoking hot. Smoking hot. 30-inch rows, sun hit the soil. When you let sun hit the soil surface, what happens to temperature?
Goes up.
Goes up, what happens to moisture?
Goes down.
Goes away. Those are two bad things. Yeah, that happened in June. Then we started getting some rains in. You know, we didn't get as much as everybody towards the 4th of July, just enough to kind of keep us going a little bit. But June's been tough. Yeah, look at August. August is coming in like a lamb, you know, compared to June.
So I had a customer that was running MSET, and then he wanted to run speed tube. I asked him his population. He said 50,000.
50.
And I was like, oh, I don't know. Well, he did it and it worked good. But he told me he was spending a lot of money on his hybrids because, yeah, 50 sounds crazy. So that's what I'm asking is, how much is hybrid playing a role in this? Because he seems to be spending, not doing cheap on his hybrids, whatever that means.
Yeah. If you're going to plant in 30-inch rows and plant 50,000, well, I would hope you'd have irrigation number one, so you can continue feeding them. But the plant-to-plant competition on that is just incredible.
Yeah.
You know, at 34,000, you're 6 inches apart. You know, take that times 2, and now you're 3 inches apart. I mean, that, to me, too much of a potential for weeds, not enough root structure, things like that. But corn hybrids have changed. I mean, the first time we ever tested narrow row corn 20, 25 years ago, we shouldn't have been doing it because the corn hybrids weren't ready. There were those leaf architectures that went straight up and then formed an umbrella. Well, that's not what you want in narrow row corn, and that's not what you want at plant populations of 50,000. You want those architectures that are more straight up. We also got to look at letting heat out of the canopy at nighttime, and those older hybrids, they would not do that, and that's why we failed. We didn't know it at the time, that was the reason why, but these hybrids have changed a lot. And evidently they still are, because the price of this stuff just keeps going up and up every year, right? That is one of the inputs that has not gone down, it just continues to go higher every year.
What percent of your fertility program is pre-plant versus through the drip system?
Oh, okay. What percent? Give me a nutrient.
I'm not going to. I'm just going to say what percentage. I don't know what to use. So what's your pre-plant? Say P205, or you said you're low in K. So.
Yeah. So DAP and potash. Potash will come out with a blanket application, so applied broadcast application over top because I'm so low. 1.9% base saturation, so I need some help on it. So we'll go broadcast on it. Then I come in with my strip till rig. Knife it in. I'm trying to go at least 8-9 inches deep. If I can go 10 dry enough, I'd go 10. And putting DAP and potash, a little bit of sulfur, a little bit of boron. We'll go there. Then we'll come in on the planter. Then we've got sugars, biologicals in the center, phosphorus, zinc in the wings, and then conceal nitrogen, potassium, sulfur, boron. That's how we set it up. Then we've got the drip to come in. I don't know that I put any phosphorus products through the drip. We're really good on P numbers. Zinc we put in through the drip to fertigate with. Sugars, definitely have. Biologicals, we definitely have. Nitrogen all day long. Potassium, a lot of potassium through the drip. And so you figure we're probably putting on at least in a lot of our troughs 25% of some of those nutrient needs through the drip system. Yeah. Just because I feel like I got a hole in the boat, right? And I'm sinking a little bit, so I just putting a little bit in to stop it. I don't know that some of the liquids will build a level higher, and that's why we're doing the broadcast and then the dry through the strip. That's the only way I know how to build a soil test value higher.
And what's the soil pH and CEC here? Well,
CEC is running about 25. Yeah. And then, do you know, on this side of the farm, when we acquired it in 2018, it had an average pH of 4.9. I'd never seen anything like
0 to
that.
6 or 0 to 12?
That would have been a 6 2/3 probe. 6 2/3. Yeah. And when we did 12-inch samples underneath it, it wasn't any better.
Right.
Yeah. But I mean, the guys that were farming this, they looked at it and said, this is all going to be development someday. Why are we going to shove a bunch of money in the line? And then we're growing a lot of corn. And if you're going to have low pH, I would grow corn. I would not grow soybeans. That's how you'll take it to chin. Yeah. Yeah. I can grow corn with low pH. It took 3 years to get this thing figured out, pH-wise, once we had that. But
What's your now?
I can go look those up. I don't remember off the top of my head. We could go pull one though. But I don't know that they're way off, out of balance. But K definitely is. K definitely is.
Are you doing saps or tissues?
Both. We're trying both. And then our new hand tester, doing that. So
How do you get along with a hand tester?
I thought it worked out really good on certain nutrients, and it looks like zinc, copper, iron are way off. But nitrogen, what was it, guys? When I showed that poster, nitrogen, sulfur, boron, a lot of those were pretty good. I'll show you the poster at lunch. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
What's your pH now?
pH, 6.3 to 6.7. Yeah. Now I'm strip till on a lot of our acres here, so managing pH is a little tougher than conventional till. It's mixing everything up, you know. And I got to be careful when I put the lime on, because it can't go on after I make the strip. You cannot drive on my strip, right? Can't drive on it. I'd love to run a strip till rig right behind the combine sometimes if we can, if we're dry. But how you gonna put lime on it? Yeah.
You feel
Those are Joe.
feel like you're gaining quite a bit with the strip till?
You feel like we're gaining?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
I like the way we're banding and putting the fertilizer on. I need to do a better job of distributing between. I've had a lot of people come to this farm and say, well, I went to strip till, my yields fell, and now I'm back to conventional tillage.
explain that to me.
I don't know. I think they're getting way too much salt in. I think it depends on the type of soil you're working with. But I think this type of soil, I think it's easy to feed it right there. And well, some of you guys said you farm. Are any of you guys no-tillers? No-tillers? I mean, a no-tiller, well, I mean, they're making compaction on the farm, right? A no-tiller, I mean, you got big tractors, combines, whatever else. Well, how you fix it? How you fix compaction if you're a no-tiller?
Soil biology.
Soil biology? Yeah.
But that takes a long time.
There you go. That's the part of it. The no-tillers will always, they'll get mad at me for asking that question. I mean, how you going to fix it? They agree they're making it, but how you going to fix it? And they'll say, cover crops. Well, that ain't going to happen overnight. Then they say earthworms. Well, that ain't going to happen overnight. My strip till bar, boom, I make it immediately. It's lift and fracture. We're not the shallow type strip till. I don't know if I could ever get that to work with the soil we've got going on here. I've got to get below that compaction line, and I've got to bubble it. Lift and fracture. I'm mixing a little bit in the strip, mixing lime in and things like that. I don't know. It's just gorgeous. When it works good, it's just absolutely awesome.
Pump CO2 in yet?
Pump CO2? Yeah. So this whole carbon thing, everybody says, oh gosh, carbon dioxide, all the high levels in the atmosphere, it's causing bad things for Mother Earth. Ladies and gentlemen, the crops that you grow, do they like carbon dioxide?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, they do. And how come no one's asking us? Everybody says, well, Mr. Farmer, we're going to come to you and we're going to pay you $5 an acre to take carbon dioxide out of the air and put it in the ground. And how are you going to do it? You're going to plant a cover crop and you're going to do reduced tillage. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair. You're doing all the work and everybody else is making all the money. I went to an ethanol company last winter, Gibson City, Illinois. And I said, hey, do you guys make carbon dioxide as a byproduct at your ethanol plant? And instantly the general manager was like, why are you asking? He was mad at me. I said, listen, I'm the good guy here, you know. He said, yes, we make carbon dioxide as a byproduct. I said, what do you do with it? He said, well, there's a smokestack on the backside of the building. There's poop right over there. Kind of problem, right? And I said, listen, I want to bring a semi-tanker to your ethanol plant, and I instead of puffing it in the air, I want you to fill my tanker. And he's like, well, why do you want to do this? And I said, well, what if we could take your CO2 and pump it in the ground through my drip tape and feed the crop with it? And instantly the ethanol plant said, oh my gosh, we got a commodity we can sell. That's what they were thinking. Yeah. But then they thought, oh my God, we don't even have a way of filling a tanker because they're all vapor and we wanted liquid. But if they're going to build a pipeline, which I don't know where that whole thing stands, I have no idea, they're going to have to get it into a liquid form, right? And so we were buying medical grade CO2, which I assume is the same thing, and we were pumping it through the drip. And it was the biggest, one of the biggest failures we've had on this farm. Yeah, but no one told me how much to put in. You know, we years ago we put clean sweep airlines on top of the ground. You know, the little airlines. You know, we'd lay it on the ground and we'd pump CO2. And I'd take this hand tester and I'd lay down in the ground in the canopy of soybeans in this tester. The sirens and whistles would be going off saying, "You better get out of there. You're going to die. High CO2 levels." And you stand up and you put the sensor above the canopy, and all of a sudden the levels crash. And we were losing the CO2 out of the canopy and into the air. So let's just pump it right into the drip. And those beans, the best beans out there, made 105. These beans with the CO2 applied made 68. I didn't do so well. But I don't even know how much I put on. I had no way to regulate it. It was the Jason Webster way of measuring, you know. Yeah. But we need to do more with it. We've got CO2 sensors out there. It is weird looking at the spikes on it, though. Sometimes with some of the beans last year, we were getting spikes like at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning of that CO2. I don't understand it, but we probably should be looking at it more. He is. Hula told me a week ago Thursday that he's been off water for 3 weeks now because he's getting salt from the ocean. told me that 3 out of every 5 years they're a crop insurance disaster. 3 out of every 5. Shows you the type of soil they're working on.
Probably means they get a lot of sun.
I wonder. We need to look at that. Yeah. Okay, so if that is the case, how do I get more sun here?
Call up Reynolds.
Raise your beds a foot.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to come back next year. Yeah. Okay. But I want you to see these yields because this is a powerful thing to our farm here. We're not doing it on every acre, but if I could do this system on every acre, I think I probably could. I just call it homemade nitrogen, and the engineers at Precision Planting say, you cannot call it nitrogen. And I say, why? They say, you can't measure it. If you can't measure it, it doesn't exist. You cannot call it nitrogen. Y'all agree to that?
Sure, why not?
So we brought this in last June, and our attempt was to plug this into the wall, put a garden hose to it, and have a farmer be able to make his own nitrogen in the shop. And this whole process, we've had some guys looking at this, and recently I had a gentleman that has worked in the ag industry for 30 years, and he sold nitrogen to farmers for 30 years. And he says, Jason, it's been a good business. I made a lot of money. It's put all my kids through college. He said, I really think you're starting to step on my toes, and I don't like it. How am I supposed to respond to that? You know how I did respond? I said, I don't care. I don't care because you've been making all the money. I said, when's the time for a farmer to make some money? This whole thing is screwed up. I mean, the farmers are buying retail and selling wholesale. If most businesses did that, they'd be broke in no time at all, bankrupt. And we're expecting this thing to work. I mean, you got this circle, this pie of revenue at the end of the year, and everybody wants a slice of it, right? Everybody's adjusting their prices just high enough to where a farmer will buy it so they can make high margins. Well, how does a farmer make high margins? How do we do it? We can't. And so I thought, with this, a year ago, I'm buying nitrogen, 32% UAN for $3.12 a gallon. I'm making it in my own shop for 4 cents. That's a 98.9% reduction in nitrogen. Now we're talking, right? I spent $120 an acre in nitrogen a year ago. Maybe I could get it to where I can make another $50, $60, $70, $80 an acre, and that might be the difference of making money or losing money. But I got the control in my hands. Knowing this, we said this belongs in the hands of organic farmers. Anybody growing organic corn or have customers with organic? Yeah. I thought this is who needs this thing, and it needs to be in their hands. It doesn't need to be in commercial growers' hands. We went to organic corn a year ago. Now, I'll never be certified organic because I got to compare it to a normal nitrogen program. And here's my normal nitrogen program. It was irrigated with drip tape, 260 bushel corn. I don't put any nitrogen on. My yield drops 100 bushels. Do you think I needed more nitrogen? Yeah, I did. So I come in with this, the Paul water, but I don't know what rate. No one had ever tested this on corn before. When we went and looked at this last June, the guy that developed this thing, he wanted to go to the horticulture market. And I said, horticulture, who cares? He says, well, where do you want to take? I said, I want to go to corn. He said, I don't know anything about corn. I said, I know. That's why I'm taking this thing to Illinois back with him. We were down in Florida at the time. So we're going to take this thing back to Illinois and we're going to look at it. And so we didn't know what rate to put on. And so I looked at it as different percentages of a normal 32 program. And so here we are, 86% volume, 130, 150, 165, 182, and 200 at a 200% rate, a 2 to 1. So in the way my simple brain works, if you're used to putting on 50 gallon of 32, you're putting on 100 of this. Okay? So it's just times 2. When we did that, though, I was 14 bushel better than my commercial program. I was only making 10 gallon a day, this little alpha machine, and but that showed some pretty good numbers. I had some commercial corn. I didn't get this thing up till June though, so I already had corn up out of the ground. I already had some nitrogen on it, but I hadn't side dressed yet. And so here's my 100% program, the way we did it normally, 256 bushel dry land corn. I held off the side dress. I lost 60 bushel of corn, says I needed that side dress, right? And then I came in with different rates, a 75, a 1 to 1, 125, and 150. I didn't go to 200 on this one. Maybe I should have. But really the yield, it was about the same. It was 4 to 7 bushel less of this homemade nitrogen or Paul water compared to 32. But due to the price difference, the 100% 1-to-1, I made $53 an acre just because of the major cost difference on it. And so this is the only corn yield data in the world, you know, up until this fall. We'll have lots of numbers coming in this fall, but right now, as we looked at it the last 12 months, this is the only thing we had to work with. The biggest problem, what do we got going on here? Are we being bombarded or what? That's the medical chopper that flew over us already and now is going back. That's interesting. Might be an accident, maybe. But anyway, the problem this year has been the machine. They made an update. And it's a bigger machine. It was supposed to make 160 gallons a day. And the problem I've got with it is I just don't know that the output at times is any good. Kind of a problem.
Why do you think that?
It's all water quality. It's simple now that I ran into all the issues. And it's just like with any alpha or beta product. You got to run it and experience the issues with it and fix it, right? But we got a hardness score of 20 on our water here. It's Illinois American water. It's clean. It's treated. You think, man, that'll be clean enough to go through this thing. But the towers, they're basically getting little things of toothpaste on the blades. It's calcium building up on the blades, and it shorts the system out. Now I got water coming into it, and I got water coming out of it. And that's a bad deal if somebody thinks that's nitrogen. And so we're making bad product, and we didn't even know it. Now the test strips are still showing red, but there's something wrong with that product. And I do believe we've got data here this year that is going to be bad. So the people that developed this thing should have known by the time it got into commercial growers' hands that you just need to go RO and be done with it. Go reverse osmosis, be done with it, make sure the water is clean that goes into the machine, and then the stuff coming out of it, you're going to be in much better shape. I didn't get that going though until July.
This year?
This year.
It seemed like this spring or winter they weren't telling us that, were they?
No, they didn't know. There's no R&D department for this company.
You.
Well, it seems that way.
Yeah.
And that ain't setting the bar very high, in my opinion, because we just don't have the number of trials. I mean, we got quite a bit, but not wide scale, or multi-crops and things like that.
Are you hearing that same thing from other people?
I mean, we've had guys here this summer saying, you know, caught on fire, almost burnt the shop down, things like that. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. There's going to be some failures. There'll be some successes, though, too. But, I mean, I've learned a lot from it this year. I mean, I've got some failures out here. I'm toying with the idea of it not being a soil-applied product. Maybe it's just a foliar product. And I'm really struggling with that. I was taught to feed corn with nitrogen through the soil, through the root, right? That's just how we've done it. But
you see good results, foliar?
Yeah, I think. We'll have to see what the combine says, but I just kind of wonder, and they told me in the very beginning this was a foliar product. Now, I'd be curious to see if they say that to this day, but it just seems like something's happening with the applications. I mean, this is the hardest of all projects right here. Corn after corn, conventional tillage, trying to feed corn with nitrogen. That's the hardest, right? Okay, and it would be the first year of corn after corn. Okay, and so just a very difficult program, and where we've got it as a total replacement, she's going to yield less. There's just no doubt about it. But listen, and this is the farmer. The way my brain works as a farmer, I got to be thinking about this. Got to be thinking about the calculator. This corn can yield 40 bushel less, and I break even. 40, 40. That's a lot. Down here at the end, I got 0 pounds of nitrogen on corn after corn. I bet it goes 160. You put a little bit of this product on, okay, maybe it don't look as green, maybe the ears aren't as big, maybe you don't have as much corn there, but 40 bushel? What if it comes in 20 bushel less? I'm probably still going to look at some of these. But does the farmer want yield to go down? That's the hard part with this thing. I say this, if a grower comes to me and says, yeah, I want to buy one of them machines, I'm going to say at this point, you put a regular 32% nitrogen program down and get yourself to V5. Then you manage it however you want. Get to V5, get the corn this tall, go. Until we get it figured out, that is the safest way to go. Get through ear girth. I wonder out here, you know, they told me when I first started looking at this, they said during a rainstorm you get lightning happen and it makes some of the atmospheric nitrogen plant available, okay? But and I do think it's a frequency change that happens, bonding, whatever. And if that raindrop that's activated, if you will, hits a leaf on the corn plant, I do think that's highly concentrated and very effective. But what if that same raindrop misses the leaf and hits the soil? Does the soil have a charge to it? Sure it does. And I wonder if it gets reverted back. That's one of the things we're thinking about. And I really wanted this to be a soil applied product because I wanted it on the planter. The old days of putting 32% on a planter, I mean, if you spill the nitrogen on a planter, what's it do to your planter? It makes it rust and things like that. Highly corrosive. I mean, this stuff this year, I mean, we got these tanks on the planter. You can open a valve, you can wash your hands nice and clean. You cup your hands together and you can drink it. Ain't gonna hurt you. Just atmospheric nitrogen, you're breathing in it every breath you take. You got it. Ain't gonna hurt you. It'll be interesting on the furrow jet trials right down here. I've got 10 gallon, it's at some different rates, but I'm just gonna use 10 gallon as a round number. 10 gallon of this stuff in furrow jet cost me 40 cents an acre. That's the program cost. 40 cents. What can you buy in farming for 40 cents an acre? You can't, because everybody's got it marked up 2,000% and somebody's making $10 off it, right? But 40 cents is all I've got in it. Let's just say I get 3 bushel. Just immediately 3 bushel. Okay? And I'm going to say corn's $5 because it makes me feel good to say that, you know. I don't know how long it's going to take to get it, but I'm going to say that. So I got $15 coming in and it cost me 40 cents. Can anybody calculate the ROI of that? 3,750% return on investment. Can you give me a stock that has ever made that?
Bitcoin. Oh, just kidding.
I'm giving it a run for the money, that's for sure. But those are the things we're looking at, and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe in some markets, maybe we won't look at it as a quote nitrogen, and maybe it'll be mixed with something else there to help improve it. But for the cost of it right there, wow, if we could get just small yield increments, that is a very high ROI. That is. But we got it as a total replacement out here. I've got trials where we look at it side dress versus foliar. We've got all kinds. Soybeans in the mix, in furrow, conceal on soybeans, on corn. We should be able to get a good look at it this year. Our R&D department at Tremont has it. They failed on it a little bit because during the summertime everybody was on vacation and they all take Fridays off, which is a major concern with me. We got corn growing, you don't go do that stuff. And they never got treatments done. And then it kept raining and raining and raining, and all of a sudden their foliar treatments, the corn's tasseled and they're making those treatments. I'm like, guys, where were we at the rest of the summer? And so it's going to fail for them. I mean, it looks terrible. When you fly it, you see the yellow strips, it looks bad, and everybody's like, this stuff don't work. In conjunction with that, I don't even know if I made them good product. It all came from me.
Oh, it is. So you think they changed the component in the machine versus last year?
I don't know if I would say that. I just...
This data behind you is from your little Alpha machine, right?
Yeah.
Which is different than what you have now.
3-head machine.
Yeah.
And then this is a 6-head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you saying your strips always showed that you had it? Your strips when you tested?
Yeah. Okay. Now it would fade, and we'd know that we were getting plugged. Yeah. But last year, I think the amount of volume we ran through it, we never calcified the system, and now we're running it 24/7 every single day. And I think the volume we calcified up, and we didn't know what was going on. And so we're changing the heads out, getting replacements from the company. And they just continually plug up. And now that we're RO, I think we're making better product. I think it physically looks different.
Do you have any for sale?
Machines or product?
Product.
I don't have much left.
So you use it all up.
I'm down to...
Are you use, like, would it be a good use? Do you use it on beans right now?
Yeah.
Like as your nodules dry up?
Yeah, make them beans big.
Yeah.
When you harvest beans, you want big beans or little beans in that grain tank?
Big.
Big. I think this could help. Yeah, basketballs, that'd be great. Yeah. Make that fake combine run.
Any trials on beans?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, in furrow. So furrow jet, conceal, and then on the foliar side. Yeah. And then a combination of them all. Yeah.
So why is this better than reverse osmosis?
Well, you just need to do reverse osmosis on the water before it comes into this machine. Then you take the calcium out of it. So then we got a line black hose coming out of the shed. With your RO machine, you have a discharge. You got to get rid of that quote dirty water. You can't tell it's dirty. It just looks like normal water. I send it out in the grass and I irrigate the grass with it. That's what I do. But that's where all the calcium's at.
So what's the cost of the RO add to the nitrogen?
I don't know. I don't know. They just dumped it off and said, here, go.
Okay.
Which happens a lot, but
It's not-
normally, I mean, I'm going to have to find that cost, but it's a little machine. It's got 2 filters on it, about this big. It did shut off the other day, and here's the problem with this machine. The RO machine shut off. So that shut the water off to the machine, but she's still firing. That's how you catch fire. If that was a precision planting product, it'd have a 20/20 on it. When that happened, it shut everything down. Seriously, there's no automation to it at all for that. If something goes wrong, she's just gonna run.
Let the RO shut off.
I don't know.
Continuous flow.
I don't know whether we had a power, something or other.
You need a different RO, like in Connecticut or something that always.
Yeah, there's always going. Yeah. And I don't understand all that. I never had to do RO before. But I do want this thing to work. I mean, you know, the first stop we're talking about that retention pond, and while we're testing every 30 days for nitrates. Well, this stuff here, if it was our nitrogen, and it would leach through the soil profile, get in the tile, and get in the water, who cares? It's totally a healthy product. If it could effectively feed corn, if we could prove that, and show that environmentally it's totally friendly, well, that's when the EPA would step in and say, boys and girls, you are using this stuff because that's how we're going to clean up the water. That makes perfect sense. Or there could be some funding for it in order to do that. Those are things that are spinning around in everybody's minds.
So if you find out that foliar nitrogen is the best way to manage this, are you studying what percent of the total N needs can I put on foliar? You know, we all know that we can't put enough on foliar. Right. So what percentage is that? Are you studying that this year?
Yeah, we've got a lot of trials where we're a third of a normal nitrogen down, and then 2/3 with this, and it looks good. It looks good. If there's no yield difference in that, that's a moneymaker. Because the difference there would be, well, you'd have 98.9%, and you'd get 2/3 of that times your nitrogen program cost. Yeah. I mean, so there you're looking at a $70 winner. Yeah. To me, if there were no yield change at all, that's at least a $50 to $70 winner, depending upon UAN cost. But that's a $50 to $70 winner. We talk all the time at this farm. What can you do on your farm to make an extra $50 an acre? Well, last year it was a pretty easy one here. So we got to do some more work on it. We were flying some this morning. We were flying the UAV at 10 gallon to the acre. I mean, that's a lot of product going through a UAV. It is. But we're just trying to keep this corn so she don't die. Keep feeding it. And so with drip, I mean, I got these mini bulks. We transfer them to another mini bulk. We go right to the pump house, and I'm pumping her through the drip. I pumped her all summer long. That's where the majority has gone on some of our high yield. It's been a lot of this stuff through our drip. So we'll see. Questions?